right, welcome back. It is the Tuesday before the Fat Friday Trolley Hop. I am your trolley captain, Megan, and we're here again for another Trolley Hop show. Before we get things started, there it is, there's the trolley. Before we get things started, we, as always, want to thank Crescent Hill Radio for giving us this time. And so we're going to go right into things. So we have 4 guests here today, and we are going to start our show with Krista, and Krista is with Copper and Kings. And so you guys are new to the area. This is going to be your very first trolley hop, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We've been busy on construction, getting perfect and ready to go for you guys.
Awesome. So now tell us a little bit about Copper and Kings.
Okay. Copper and Kings is an American brandy company. To my knowledge, we're the only American brandy company in Kentucky. We established this year in Butchertown. We've actually been working on construction of the facility for over a year. Producing brandy for quite a while, and this is the actual opening of the event space, the facility. We'll be doing tours and tastings and open to the public on the weekends.
Okay. And so, like Kentucky is bourbon, and now we have a big craft beer boom. But tell us a little bit about brandy. How do you enjoy brandy? What kind of a drink is that?
Well, first of all, I'll just give you the cheat sheet. Brandy is distilled wine.
Okay.
So everybody in Kentucky is pretty familiar with how you make bourbon. And when they make bourbon, they start with what is called a distiller's beer. And that's fermented grains and corn. And so we pretty much have the same process. We just start with fruit. So fermented wine, distilled. We distilled twice in copper pots. Our pots were made at Vendome, right down the street from us in Butchertown. So they literally rolled them down Washington Street to get to the facility. And then our helmet's a little bit different. I guess, everyone probably should just come by the distillery to see. But then the other main difference is that we age in second use barrels. So our thinking there is when you start with fruit, you have a little bit more flavor than what you start with if you're doing grains and corns and things. So you kind of want less barrel and more of the original spirit. So it's a very similar, very close cousin, but kind of a different philosophy.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about the history of Copper and Kings. How did you guys get started, and how did you get where you are today?
So it's a brief but exciting history. The owners of the company, Joe and Leslie Heron, had started 2 businesses in Louisville already. They had worked with Flavor Man, Dave Defoe, and many years ago, and become really close friends with him. And they developed nutrient enhanced cola called Nutri-Soda here in Louisville. They ended up selling that product off to Pepsi, and then their next endeavor was to create Crispin cider, which a lot of people are familiar with. I think it's delicious. It's a hard apple cider. And they made Crispin in California and Minnesota, but had started working with Flavor Man here to kind of create it. And this time they decided to stay, which, is kind of cool about Louisville, that they had been here in many years, kind of fallen in love with the place and decided to make it home. So when they sold Crispin, they were like, what do we want to do now? And they decided to make brandy because, everyone's making bourbon. So Joe's statement is, why bring a knife into a gunfight? There's lots of good bourbon and, no real room there for something else. But so brandy is kind of a new old thing, really. Honestly, cocktail history dictates that brandy was like the first spirit.
I had no idea. I learned something new. So we're glad you guys are here, and we're glad you're going to start being a part of the trolley hop. So we've talked a little bit about the history and all that. So now what what products is Copper and Kings, what different types of brandies? So
right now, we actually have 3 products in the market. One is an immature brandy, which is really different. It's a white spirit, and basically we start with distilled Muscat grapes, distilled Colombard grapes, and distilled Chenin Blanc, and we make a clear spirit that has never seen any aging. It's a 90 proof spirit, so it's got some kick, but it has some amazing flavor. Just like if you tried a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chardonnay, you would notice these different varietal characteristics. With the Colombard, the Chenin Blanc, and the Muscat, you get a lot of nuances. It's pretty cool. And then we have the craft distilled, which is our aged product, and it's an American brandy. Just the kind of, brown spirit that you are sort of familiar with around here. I think that the brandy, because it starts with fruit, has a little bit of a smoother flavor. But, like I said, we use the aged bourbon barrel, so you don't get as much of the wood. And then we also just started making a Blanche absinthe, which is a muscat-based absinthe. We use wormwood and fennel and hyssop, little bit of black pepper in there, and it makes a great spirit, but it's 135 proof, so you gotta be careful with it.
Exactly. So I've seen Copper and Kings at the Wine Rack on Frankfurt Avenue. Yep. Where are some other places around town that people can find Copper and Kings?
We're in Liquor Barn, Liquor World, Whole Foods carries us. Lots of restaurants have picked it up. Bartenders are loving playing around with it in cocktails because it is a little bit of a lighter spirit than your whiskeys. It kind of really blends well with other components to make good cocktails. I know that they carried at Rye on Market. Decca has a cocktail on the menu with the product. The Haymarket Whiskey Bar was a real early adopter of the product. Garage Bar, 21C, St. Charles Exchange.
Sure. So all the big places, pretty much downtown.
I think so.
Butchertown,
I'm really happy with the product placement.
Well, cool. And so, so those are a lot of places around Butchertown. So is that one of the reasons why you guys, chose your location because it was close? How did you guys decide on Butchertown
I think,
area?
It was kind of Joe and Leslie, honestly, were looking at like Seattle or West Coast because that's where you think of. That's where all the grapes are. And then they had, like I said, been to Louisville and kind of fall in love with it, and then realized that, if you want your copper pot stills, they come from Vendome and Butchertown. And if you want barrels, you have to be nice to the people at Maker's Mark and get them to sell you their used barrels. So the engineering talent for distilling is here in Kentucky. So all these things started pointing them more toward Louisville, and all of a sudden they were like, well, it's logical. The only thing we have to get here is the wine, and everything else was already in Kentucky. So, we're fortunate when we ship our product out. We're in 7 markets now. When we ship our product out to Minnesota or, Wisconsin or Tennessee, we're so close because of the proximity of Louisville.
Sure.
That we're allowed to keep shipping prices low, and then the bottle cost doesn't have to go up. So
Sure. And so, like I said, we're glad to have you guys here. So can you tell us exactly what the address is? Where is Copper and Kings?
Yep. We're at 1111 East Washington Street. So we're right next to Play Dance Bar. We're located next to the Point in Butchertown, right on the railroad tracks.
Sure.
And then if you know where Butchertown Market is, they're right in front of us. So
okay,
we're kind of tucked in, but fortunately, we built you a giant orange building to guide the way.
So you guys can definitely find that. Just look for the big orange building. So you guys are now going to be participating in the Trolley Hops.
We are.
So what are you guys going to have going on kind of year round? And then we'll get to the Halloween party. But what are you guys going to be doing year round?
So right now, just while we see, what interest is in touring the facility, we've decided to open on weekends, keeping Friday nights kind of a later night so that the community can come out. We'll run tours on the hour from 10 a.m. on Fridays until 8 p.m. So folks can come out and, have a tour and have a tasting and maybe buy a couple bottles or a T-shirt or something. We're not a bar or a restaurant at all, so we know they're going to move on and, have drinks elsewhere. So kind of, keep it to 7 or 8. And then we'll be open on Saturday and Sundays, running tours from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So folks who are off on the weekends or traveling can come out and bring their family and, take a tour of the place.
Great.
And then if interest is there, of course, we'll expand into some weekday hours, but we'll see what happens.
And so what is it going to cost to tour the facility?
So to do a tour and tasting, full tour with a distiller and, a rooftop tasting, and a takeaway glass will be $10.
Oh, okay.
If you want to stop in and you don't have time to do the whole full tour, we will do what's called a mini tour. And we've got done some just really cool distillery videos, some cocktail videos, some product videos, and you can step over into our tour reception area and watch the videos, have a brandy sampling, and just hang out for $5. So kind of two flexible options.
Okay. And then so the big Trolley Hop premiere this Friday night.
Yes.
Tell us about your Halloween party.
So we are the host of Murder Ballads. And Murder Ballads was an album by Nick Cave in the 90s. And we found a band who was interested in covering the entire album. Local band Vice Tricks and the Revenants will be playing it in its entirety from 9 until 11. And a group of bartenders called Black Irish Elvis are putting together some cocktails that have been themed sort of around the songs and the album. And they'll be there serving those cocktails. Atlantic Number 5 and Rye are providing food for sale. They're going to do like meatball sliders and chili and some like nice chilly weather food.
Okay. And so what is going to be the cost for?
It's $7. Okay. We have online sales at murderballads.eventbrite.com. And if you type in the discount code Trolley Hop, you'll get $2 off.
Great. So you guys are making your Trolley Hop premiere Friday night, Copper and Kings. And then from here on out, Trolley Hop nights, I guess go on out, have a tour, do a tasting. Lots of fun stuff going on at Copper and Kings now. So we are going to take a break. And then when we come back, we'll talk to Judy from A Reader's Corner. Okay. You good? Okay. Well, you're free to go. Free to get back to your party. What?
Checking out new stuff and then you can recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to add things.
I'll email.
Hey, thank you guys so much. And I appreciate you.
Good luck with the
Yeah.
greens for garns.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go find them now.
That's gonna be interesting.
Thank you very much.
See ya. Thank you.
Email me if you want.
That does sound fun. Okay, so we'll come to you. And we'll just kind of chat about A Reader's Corner, the events you guys have, what you're doing for Halloween. I'll just talk. All right, that was Billy Swayze. And so we are back here with the Trolley Hop Show. We're with Judy from A Reader's Corner, so welcome. And so, Judy, you've been on the Avenue for a little bit now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about A Reader's Corner?
Well, we've been on Frankfurt Avenue. It was 3 years in July. We moved from St. Matthews. We had been out there probably about 14 years, so it was kind of a big switch to go from St. Matthews down to Clifton, but we really like the local. We were kind of sitting on the edge, on the corner, and it was kind of hard for us to participate in things, so this is kind of, we're kind of in the middle with local all around us, and so that works much better for us.
And so how did you get into the business of, I guess bookstore really is pretty much what it is. How did you come about that?
Well, my husband started it about 17 years ago. It was something he just thought he wanted to do. And so for the first about 4 years, he ran it with some part-time people as our children were small. And then when we moved out on Breckenridge Lane to a large second location, we, at that point, I was more available. So it just seemed perfect for me to run the store, and he's a college professor, so he did that part-time, and so it just seemed to work, and I've really enjoyed it. It's taught me a lot about books that I didn't know, that's for sure, and so it's been a good experience, and it's very educating to I kind of got a crash course on things. I'm a reader,
sure.
but not that, not that varied of a reader. And so you have to learn a lot because people expect you to know the authors and information about the books and recommendations. So you have to, if you don't read it, you have to learn about it anyway.
Sure. And so we are, having our big Halloween hop, which we'll talk to Maker's Mark representative here in a second. But what are you guys going to be doing at the Reader's Corner for the Halloween hop?
Well, we are probably just going to be having, trick-or-treat candy for the kids, and I know there's a couple businesses around us that are having little things going on, but we're just going to kind of hang out and enjoy the evening. Hopefully it's going to be a nice warm one.
I think it is going to be. I think it's going to be a big one. So hopefully you'll have a lot of trick-or-treaters come through.
We hope so.
So that'll be fun. So, and it seems like every trolley hop, you guys have something going on. So talk a little bit about the events that you guys have had, for past trolley hops, and maybe some stuff you guys have coming up.
Well, sometimes we'll have book signings. Mm-hmm. It just kind of depends on the availability of the author. We have book signings regularly, on different times, sometimes weekends, sometimes weekdays, and then we have story time once a month. So we have events, and we sometimes we'll have live music for the trolley hops. Like I said, sometimes it depends on the availability of people and authors, and sometimes we just kind of, just have a normal hop and just, welcome people in. And so it's just kind of varies.
Sure. And so tell us a little bit about the story time that you guys have.
Well, once a month, the second Saturday, we do story time for the children. Sometimes it's just a simple story time. Miss Becky, who's not with us anymore, she would read to the children. If it's near an occasion, we'll do Father's Day, Mother's Day, and then we'll have a craft. We invite guests in. We just had a professional storytime / author, Thomas Freese, who was great with the kids and plays his guitar and sings and really engages the children. And then they always get to take a free book home, and we have refreshments. And so we'll invite different guests in, sometimes an author, sometimes just Music With Me has done, it's a program for young children, and they use instruments and kind of engage the parents. And they usually do it once a year for us. So we try to get something special.
Sure.
But occasionally we'll just have kind of a laid-back story time, and then sometimes that's when we usually do the craft.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit, you guys have, a large selection of books there. So what are some things that maybe you guys are offering that other bookstores in town may not?
Well, we consider ourselves full service. We started off as a used bookstore only, and then added new when we moved out to Breckenridge to the larger store, and we decided to offer a 20% discount to kind of soften the blow, since we originally were used only. And then, of course, if someone needs the book, we don't have it on the shelf, or we can't order it new, we go to the internet and we can order that for them. So we kind of feel like we can get that book for someone wherever we need to get it. And so we consider that a good service, that they can come to us and somehow we can get that book for them.
Sure.
And we recommend them to other bookstores. Not too many left, but we do send them different places if we think that they might have that book.
Mm-hmm. I am one of those people, because I know a lot of bookstores went away with the Kindle and whatever, but I'm one of those people who just loves to hold a book. So do you feel like there still are a ton of people out there who just prefer? Yeah, I think
we
so
wouldn't
too.
be there. We would not be there if that wasn't the case. It's pretty mixed. People like it. It's very convenient for travel and in certain times. But then I'd say a fair amount of the people I've talked to really still like holding that book. And it just depends on the type of book that it is. If it's a book you think you might want to keep, then you're going to buy the book. If it's not a book, if you're going to read it once, then you may downloaded. So it's like I say, pretty mixed, and obviously we still have a lot of people, and especially children, to pick up that favorite book and take it to mom or dad. You just can't ruin that memory. You just can't change that. And so I'm hoping to get kids connected to books. They'll always, to some degree, be connected.
Sure. And so before we let you go, do you have a favorite book that you're like, that is my all-time favorite read?
I really don't. I honestly, this sounds crazy, but I didn't grow up in a reading family. My husband did, but so I didn't. I don't remember having a favorite book. I've learned to love books a lot more really since once I had my own children, reading to them, and we just like. I mean, I've read a lot of different ones to them, but I personally, honestly, can't think of anything that's a real special one to me.
Well, that's fair enough. So, well, we are going to take another break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk to Jane, who is a representative with Maker's Mark, who obviously sponsors our big Halloween hop. So we'll get some details on that. Okay. We'll hang out for a second. What? I don't think you can hear it like on the microphone.
I played the wrong song. This is actually Year of October.
Oh, Year of October?
Those two are reversed. Didn't say anything.
So wait, it's going to be Year of October and then Most
This is
Wanted?
Year of October.
Okay. Because we don't even have Year of October on here.
Oh, I didn't even write that on there. And then most wanted.
Okay, got it. That's fine. That's fine.
Every summer I was like, oh, I'm really doing the flies. And every summer I was thinking, I'm never reading this book again.
You read it again.
I probably read it a dozen times.
Really? So I couldn't get through it. Those
Now I had to read that in school. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. It would always be, I think because I read it in school, my brother read it in school. We just had copies of the
Yeah, that's funny. And it makes you the way you just,
Something resonated.
But it is a classic song.
Here we go. All right, welcome back. So that was Year of October that we were just listening to. And so now we have Jane with Maker's Mark. And Maker's Mark is our big Trolley Hop sponsor for the Halloween hop this year. So welcome, Jane.
Thanks for having me here.
We are so glad you're here. So tell me, what is your role at Maker's Mark?
Megan, I'm still trying to figure that out. We wear a lot of different hats at Maker's Mark. I was originally hired by Rob Samuels as our first international employee. I was our global brand ambassador for 5 years. So my job was to take bourbon to the world. Been back in Kentucky about 3 years. I still do a lot of education, a lot of that kind of work. And then I get to work with our distributor, and I get to work with great bars, restaurants, all sorts of different people. So it's just, we're still family operated. So it's kind of, you pick up whenever it's needed and you go do what needs to be done. But it's a great place to work.
Awesome. So tell me, I know people know the Maker's Mark brand. They see the red wax. But, tell us a little bit about the history of Maker's Mark. What's a little different about Maker's Mark?
Well, we're actually celebrating 60 years this year of the very first barrel we laid down in 1954. And so it's been a really special year, as Bill Samuels has retired and kind of stepped back a bit. He's become very sentimental about his mom and dad, who started this brand in the 1950s when really no one was drinking bourbon. And, his dad created the liquid and his mom kind of did everything else. She created that iconic packaging. She designed the bottle. She kept the distillery intact. In fact, she was just honored and put into the Bourbon Hall of Fame last month.
Very
So
cool.
it's been a really special year at the brand.
Cool. And so how did she come up with the dipped wax? What's the story behind that?
Actually, funnily enough, speaking of Copper and Kings, she was a big cognac drinker. She loved brandy and cognac, and she was a collector of many things, but she actually collected old 18th, 19th century cognac bottles. And because cognac was such an expensive liquid, they would seal the bottles in wax to ensure people couldn't actually tamper with the liquid. And she loved the idea of it. She loved the look of it. She experimented with, I think, a deep fryer, on the kitchen table. But today at our distillery in Loretto, we still dip every single bottle by hand. So
I have been there. I've done the tour, and I've seen them in there, on the line dipping the bottles, and I have dipped my own bottle. So that I think that's
How
very
did you
cool.
do?
It was not good. I way too much wax. So. So anyway, but I still have it. And it's kind of cool that I'm like, hey, I hand dipped my own bottle here. So what do you think has really been, if you had to pick one or two things, the key to Maker's Mark's success?
Actually, I think it's things like Trolley Hop. Maker's Mark hit Kentucky markets in 1959, and I think Bill says they sold something like 200 cases the first year. And up until the 80s, Kentucky was the only place that drank Maker's Mark or had heard of Maker's Mark. I was listening to Krista say, we were in 7 markets, and I thought it took 30 years, really, for us to ever get outside of Kentucky. And so it was really the local bars, the local restaurants, the local communities that just fell in love with the brand and formed an attachment and kept it alive when no one else in the world had any need or desire for it. So I think it's still a bourbon that's very special to the people of Kentucky, or I hope so.
I have to agree with that. And I think a lot of people are really interested. How many people would you say do the tour each year?
We, the Bourbon Trail, I think the Kentucky Distillers Association and all the distilleries getting together have done a really amazing job of promoting the Bourbon Trail. And we get over 100,000 visitors a year to Loretto, Kentucky. And for those of you who've been there, it's not an easy drive.
No.
But hopefully people think it's worth it. And there's a real interest in how it's produced and what we do and seeing the process. And even people who aren't really bourbon drinkers come and they really enjoy it.
Yeah. I know, it was a random Sunday, nothing to do. And I'm just talking to my boyfriend, Adam. I'm like, what should we do today? Let's take an adventure. I've always wanted to go to Maker's Mark. And so we just drove up for the day. And you're right, it is kind of winding roads to get back there. But it was very cool. And so I think that we're, really lucky to have something like that in our state for sure. For sure. So we were talking about how one of the keys to the success is, local support. So how did Maker's Mark come to be a Trolley sponsor? When did all that start?
I can't really say, and
I couldn't remember.
We were talking about it before the show, and it's been 10 years for Trolley Hop. And my guess is someone talked to Bill Samuels, and he said, absolutely. And I think when you look at what, to me, Frankfurt Avenue stands for and the businesses, and Judy kept talking about local, I think how can you not want to support that and be a part of that? And I was saying to the gals, I loved it so much, bought a house down off Frankfurt Avenue just earlier this year. So it's a really special place, and we have great relationships with everyone on the avenue. So it's fun for us.
And so you've been involved with the Trolley Hop for, a couple of years now. What have been some of your favorite things that, have been, maybe not even just the Maker's Mark hop, but, any Trolley Hops? What are some of your favorites?
Our first was definitely my favorite. John Johnson from the Wine Rack and I had met and kind of come up with this idea of handing out red wigs all over Frankfurt Avenue.
That was funny.
And letting it be a redheaded takeover. And in fact, all of the businesses had them, and people, it was just bizarre to see everyone walking down the street wearing red wigs.
I think I still have one.
Yeah, I still. And I'm going to have some on me, but I figure since it's Halloween, people will have costumes. But anyone doesn't have one, find the Makers team. We're going to have red wigs on us.
So the Halloween hop, you guys have put a lot of work into this, making this its own, event with all kinds of stuff going on. So just kind of explain a little bit what is going to go on as far as the Maker's Mark side of things for the Halloween hop.
Well, a lot of the bars and restaurants on the avenue will be featuring Maker's Mark cocktails. We've got some fun glassware to celebrate Halloween. And then our makers team will be out in full force. Any reason to go out and enjoy some good food and drinks. We're going to be having a happy hour at the Craft House around 5:30, and then after that, we're going to head over to the Wine Rack. And Bill Samuels Jr. is going to be in good form. He loves dressing up more than anyone I know. And he's going to be doing a little storytelling session with some cocktails and samples at the Wine Rack from about 6:15 till 8. And then we're going to just see where the rest of the night takes us, I guess.
Got it. And so I have heard that Bill Samuels is a very entertaining character. So I think that's going to be a good time.
To say the least. And I think since he's retired, he's 74 now. He'd probably be mad I told his age. But just larger than life. You never know what stories he's going to come out with. And they're almost always based on some sort of truth. So.
No, and John Johnson was saying that he's a good time, so people will definitely not want to miss that.
Absolutely.
And so you're inviting all of your ambassadors out. Tell us about the Maker's Mark Ambassador Program that you guys have.
You know, this was really something that kind of formed on its own, and this was a little bit before my time with Maker's Mark, but again, it kind of goes back to Kentuckians loving this brand, talking about this brand, sharing it with people. And in fact, there's a real sense of ownership anytime we do something people don't like, buddy, they let us know. So it kind of started out as people were already talking about Maker's Mark, and Bill thought, why don't we give them the tools to talk about Maker's Mark and let them have real ownership? So people kind of come in, be an ambassador, you get your name on a barrel, we communicate with you regularly, we try to, do different stuff throughout the year. So it's a really fun part of the brand. I really enjoy getting to see our ambassadors out in full force.
And how does one become a Maker's Mark ambassador?
Used to, it was only through a friend recommendation. So an ambassador had to recommend a friend to be an ambassador. That's still primarily what you find a lot of times. But our website can usually direct you somewhere. I'm more with Judy on books. I don't do a lot on the World Wide Web, so I can't really tell you how to navigate our website. But yeah, and I'm not that old for those of you who don't know me. So.
And I would assume you probably have to be 21 and over to be a brand ambassador.
You do.
Okay. And so are there any perks other than getting your name on a barrel? Anything else?
You get first dibs on any information. Our ambassadors find out anything happening with the brand before we tell anyone else in terms of the public. So, it's really a relationship that Bill and Rob have fostered, and we really, our ambassadors mean a lot to us, and it's a really fun thing to be a part of. So hopefully they'll be out in full force.
I have to say, I don't know if my mic is on, but in the 80s, I used to work at a restaurant. And back then, when we had a lot of Japanese customers and clients who would come in, and they were instructed to always return home with as much Maker's Mark as they could legally,
Really
take back to Japan. So, I mean, that brand, it started small.
Yeah.
Went worldwide for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I know, like the specialty bottles that they do around athletics in Kentucky, those are huge because, I know I have, run out to the store as soon as it opens to get a bottle, and those are very cool.
Which is what's so nice about that, and a lot of people don't realize, Megan. It's what I say to people. I bought this. You've supported the university. All of the specialty bottles always have a charity component. Mm-hmm. So, the U of L project was to raise money for the Academic Center of Excellence, and, and it created great awareness. And so those are fun to be a part of, and giving back to the community that has supported us and helped us grow.
Sure. And so, we do very much appreciate you guys being involved in our Halloween hop. So tell us about, before we let you go, some of the specialty drinks that they'll have served Friday night and where you can find those.
I just was at Vernay's before I came here, and they're doing a Meet Your Makers, which I don't think it's quite as tragic as it sounds.
Got a great name.
But I think they've got pumpkin and carrot juice and some different stuff mixed in with bourbon with Makers. That's going to be interesting. I know our friends at Porcini's, they pour a really great Manhattan. I know the Craft House, I think, has some
They
good
do have some good bourbon drink.
some good bourbon cocktails on the menu. So I'm not really sure what everyone's doing. That's the point of Friday night. I'm going to get out there and find out.
Me too. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the other events going on Frankfort Avenue. And we'll also talk to Kathy, who lives on Hillcrest, which we are going to add a stop for. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. These get so hot on my ears. No, your mic is on. She always leaves all the mics on. Oh, I think it's just because I'm such a talker.
Yeah, but she's also a Derby Festival princess.
I was the queen. I used to do beauty pageants all the time back in the day. So, I was a pageant competitor for a long time. Yeah. Like, I think I did my first one when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like a grown-up honey boo-boo or something. But I do think that kind of stuff helped me to learn how to speak and, and confidence boosting.
What was your talent?
I never did talent pageants. So there's a lot of pageants. There's only one system that does talent, and that's the America system, which people don't know. I think all of them have talent. Okay. So I never did talent pageants. But, I take tap dancing and stuff, so I was always geared up in case I wanted to do one, but I never did a talent pageant. Okay, that's fine. The names on here, she put them a little backwards, but it's okay. We'll adjust. All right, welcome back to the Trolley Hop Show. That was Peter Searcy that we were listening to. And so we are here tonight talking about our big Halloween Trolley Hop. We've got a lot of stuff going on. We just got done talking to Jane from Maker's Mark, who is the official sponsor of this hop. And so, we got a lot of events going on around that. We've got the meet and greet, 5:30 at Craft House on Friday night. And then from there, they'll go on to the wine rack, where Bill Samuels is going to do some storytelling, which I hear is going to be very entertaining, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, but outside of that, up and down the avenue, we're going to have several events. So I know El Mundo is doing a day, I think a Day of the Dead party. They're going to face paint and have drink specials going on. Surroundings, which is fairly new to the avenue, is going to have, they're going to have a artist there who's going to do some artwork on a Maker's Mark barrel, and then you'll be able to enter to win that. So that's kind of cool. And then Gallery K, our new art gallery on the avenue, is going to have a show opening, and it's going to be based on like fantasy, fiction kind of stuff. So that should be pretty cool to check out. So another event that we're going to have is we are adding a stop at Hillcrest Avenue along the trolley route. So we've got Kathy here, and Kathy is a board member for Frankfort Avenue Business Association, but she also lives on Hillcrest Avenue. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
And so Kathy is here to kind of talk about the Hillcrest Avenue, what all you can find there, because that's, you guys decorate, so over the top, for sure.
and it's funny, it's a very organic event. It just sort of happened about 20 years ago. A couple of guys kind of had dueling Halloween decorations, and when we moved to the street on 16 years ago, my neighbor said, "I hope you like Halloween." I said, "I love Halloween." So that's kind of how we got started with it as well.
Well, very cool. And so, is there any, I know you said you had some dueling neighbors. Was there any specific person who was like, let's start doing this as a street?
Well, there is a gentleman, and if you are familiar with Hillcrest runs right off of Frankfurt Avenue, and it turns into Zorn Avenue. But down in the middle of the block, there is a gentleman who actually has a Harley Davidson that's buried in his yard. And every year, I mean, he starts and has it up by the 1st of October. He has a plane. He has a parachutist. He has all of these very clever, decorations. You have to go up and read all the signs, and he puts a lot of work into it. But he's the Mac Daddy of the avenue.
Got it. And so, tell us a little bit about why Hillcrest, the decorating is important to the families on Hillcrest, but also to, the Louisville community.
I have no idea. I really don't. It's something, we've always decorated. And then when we moved there, our son was very small. And I own a little thrift store called Crescent Hill Trading Company. And I'm always out finding things. And I found all this mirror tile. And I said, ooh, what could I do with that? And I said, oh, a disco. Let's do a disco for Halloween. And my husband said, well, that would be someone's idea of hell, listening to disco music. So I called it Dante's Disco Inferno, and there's a lot of good disco material out there. Burn, baby, burn. I'm your boogeyman. Dancing Queen, Only 17 is on one of our gravestones, and Disco Side, no, it's Staying Alive, Staying Alive. So there's a lot of good stuff, and that's kind of how we started. Our Halloween decorations are not that scary. They're just fun.
Sure. But, I mean, and there are some houses that are scary. There's some that are funny.
They are.
So, talk a little bit about some of the houses up and down the avenue. What are some of the themes?
Well, one of our new neighbors, she's a veterinarian, and her house is Churchill Downs, and it's great. The porch has skeletons up there with hats and drinking their mint juleps, and she has the twin spires on her porch, and then she has the horses and little skeleton jockeys on them, and then there's a couple tombstones that have Seattle Slew and Secretariat, those major horses that have passed away. There's a movie called Monster House. It's an animated movie, and the house it's a monster house, but there's a monster house on Hillcrest this year, and it's in the 100 block of Hillcrest. It's got eyes on the windows and a big tongue that comes out in the sidewalk, and teeth. And there's also there's a very cute Snoopy Halloween, the Great Pumpkin, talented artist. And so it's just a little bit of everything. Not everybody has a theme, but it's a little more fun when you have a theme.
Sure. And so do you think that, decorating and putting on this big production that is Hillcrest Avenue brings, all the neighbors together?
It does. And it's a little... Yeah, it does bring us all together as a neighborhood, as a street, or even people that are parallel. Some people don't like it, and some of us, we just put up with it. Once a year, you feel like you're in a fishbowl because, people are going to come around. But we do collect money as a group, and we pay for off-duty police officers. We have 4 of them to control traffic or find lost kids, or they'll cite you if you're drinking a bourbon or a glass of wine down the Hillcrest Avenue. So just be aware of that. But we come together and we pay for garbage cans and a little bit of everything. Keep it tidy and neat.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it is, that you guys do put on such a good production, and it seems, like one of the best events that goes on around Halloween, because I feel like everybody goes to Hillcrest Avenue.
Yeah, it's actually made national news. My husband's from Ireland, and one of his family members about 10 years ago saw it on their news in Ireland, and it's always on USA Today and things like that. So it's a big event, but we do like to give back, and because so many people come along the street the whole month of October, we collect canned goods for the United Crescent Hill Ministries, and their pantry right now is very low. So even if you don't make it to Hillcrest, you don't want to contribute canned goods or have that opportunity, you can come by United Crescent Hill Ministries, which is at 150 South State Street, and donate groceries and non-perishables for their pantry.
Awesome. And so tell us a little bit about how you guys prepare. I mean, because I'm sure a lot of hard work goes into setting up these elaborate decorations.
Well, I think you need one good long weekend, maybe two. If I can sort of now, I know what I have. I kind of skip all the things that take too much time, and we've got it down to a science. I have to get out my schematics and figure out where the lights go, and these lights work well, these don't, and I need this many electric cords. And so, but it changes a little bit every year. This year, I don't spend a lot of money. People think we spend a lot of money, but it's things that I've acquired or I paint myself. When Michael Jackson passed away, we had to make a Michael Jackson Thriller. You have to look for him. And I have a new one. It's called with Donna Summers, and it says Last Dance. So it does take us a couple of weekends to put it all together.
Sure. And then, so how many kids do you guys have to prepare for?
Ooh, even on a school night in the middle of the week, on a rainy night, we've had 5,000 kids. So when I told everyone that the trolley hop was happening and Maker's Mark was sponsoring it and they're going to have a trolley that's going to pick up and let people off, everybody goes, oh my gosh. So usually we have a party, it's BYOC, bring your own candy. And then we probably spend the same amount of money for food and drink as we would on candy, but we really do stick to you don't get a handful of candy on Hillcrest. You're going to get one. You might get one Tootsie Roll or one piece of bubble gum or, but, and then when it's gone, it's gone.
Sure. I can imagine, because that has got to be a lot.
That is.
To
You
take
guys
on.
need to find a candy sponsor.
Well, I know. We've thought about that too.
Get an official sponsor for Hillcrest.
But we do have a little Facebook group now, and it is easier. We've had people that move to the street. Oh, I just moved here. How many people should I prepare for? And then we all, oh, Lord. Well, you might want to start. Some people do actually keep count. I do not actually give out the candy. Thankfully, I have a large family, and they do a lot of the giving out of the candy, and it's just a crazy party.
So, do you guys just love though seeing all the kids come through with their costumes? And
That's the best part, really.
Yeah,
and that's why people say, why don't you close the street? Well, if we close the street, it becomes a different event entirely. And when the candy's gone, and when the kids come through, the party's over and go home, and no one's loitering in your yard but the kids are so cute. So we're all looking forward to seeing all the little, what's it, Frozen, that movie, that Elsa or Elsa.
Yeah.
I'm sure, every year there's a theme, but sometimes they get really clever.
So what would you say are maybe some of the most unique and most interesting costumes you've seen come down Hillcrest?
Oh, like a serial killer with a bunch of cereal boxes on, or a lot of times it falls in a political year, obviously. So we've had our share of Sarah Palin's and Obama's over the years, and so I'm sure this year we'll see a few more of something. I don't know. We've had like the Blue Men, people come in outfits, and Lady Gaga, lots of Lady Gagas. Actually, the way our disco is, we have a dance floor on the night, and we have a bouncer actually at the door. You either have to know one of the two of us to get in, but and we dance on, and people have come up, and we've let some people get up on the stage and dance, which is our porch. But.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, that seems like a lot of fun. Now, and I'm sure a lot of people, coming down your street in front of your house. I mean, has anything crazy ever happened on Hillcrest?
Well, yes, a bunch of Japanese people kind of jumped in and they were videotaping and photographing everything, and we kind of laughed and said we're probably on some website in Japan, and oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I think it's interesting because we're one of the only countries that celebrates Halloween.
Yeah.
So Halloween in itself is, my husband's from England. We've talked about this, and he's like, why do these beggars come to your door asking for candy, So I think
I know. And
I think it's a weird concept for a lot of people anyway. And then you guys are Halloween on steroids.
Yes, exactly. We are.
So.
But the funny thing is, you better come see it while you can, because everything goes down the next day. It's not like Christmas. It doesn't hang around for a couple of weeks. We take it all down.
And what is that like, having to, is it, just terrible having to pack all that up?
Unless it rains. But no, I have everything, I've got it all down to a science.
Got it. So, like we said earlier, we are adding a stop on Hillcrest Avenue during the trolley hop. So that will help some people with the parking. You can park all up and down the avenue. The trolley, as always, is free to ride. Hop on, and then you can get dropped off and then pick back up right there on Hillcrest Avenue. So we'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about a couple of other events, and then after that, I guess we'll just see you at the trolley hop on Friday. So take a break for a second. We'll be right back. All right. No, you're fine. Yeah.
I mean, we really did look at the house, and I was like, I can't handle the pressure at all.
Oh, there's no pressure. I swear to you. But I did
feel like you had to, though.
not with the.
Does everybody on Hillcrest?
No.
I know, I've seen some dark houses.
Yeah, and we went dark a couple years ago. I mean, my son was playing football, and stuff going on with the shop. And then last year it wasn't close, but I mean, it was that really weird tornado. So we didn't have a car, but I just gave out.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just, if you wrap up, just say, even between now and Friday, we might can.
Okay.
Well, we do have several, I have to say that, we have, just look for bins in front of houses, that there's probably about 20 people black and white.
Okay. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the Trolley Hop Show. That was Most Wanted, and so we are, we're talking again about the big Maker's Mark Halloween Hop going on this Friday night on Frankfort Avenue. Lots of good events going on, and we were just talking with Kathy, who is on Hillcrest Avenue, which is always a great event for families, always free, but want to go ahead and reiterate that they are giving back this year, and so anytime between now and I guess Friday night would be the last night on Hillcrest, make sure you bring your canned goods by, because the food pantry that they're supporting is really low, and so that's a really important thing that they're doing this year. So just make sure you look for the bins. They're outside of several of the homes, and drop off your canned goods. So the big Maker's Mark Hop, we're going to start off the night at 5:30 at Craft House with a meet and greet, and then we're going to go on to Wine Rack, where Bill Samuels will have his microphone, and he'll be telling lots of stories. And then several other events up and down the avenue we want to let you guys know about before we go. We do have a new neighbor on the avenue, which is actually right across from Kathy's shop. Consider Boutique has just opened up, and so they're going to host some trick-or-treaters there. So go by and see them. They're right there at 107 South Bailey Avenue. And Heine Brothers is going to be offering some drink specials that night. They're going to have a midnight mocha or a candy corn latte and another drink called the Zombie, so you won't want to miss that. And then last but not least, with their Halloween event, Lexi's Trading Post, which is in the Clifton area, they're going to have an event where anybody who's dressed in a military costume will get a free gift that night. So make sure you come out Friday night for the Maker's Mark Halloween Hop. It's going to be a great time, lots of free fun, and we hope to see you there. As always, before we go, thank you, Kathy, with Crescent Hill Radio, for letting us come on the air, and we will we'll see you next month, the Tuesday before Trolley Hop. Until then, see ya, and join us on Friday night.